One thing I didn't expect to see when I woke up this morning. I woke up in the afternoon, I have weird hours, but one thing I didn't expect to see on my phone as a Twitter notification was the Portland Trail Blazers trading Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore. Straight up. No picks, no additional assets. I thought it might take Trent and Turner to get a guy like Bazemore because Bazemore is obviously better than Evan Turner, and no, it's a straight up swap. Neil Olshey is becoming the king of swapping worse players for better players. Somehow we got Skal Labissiere for Caleb Swanigan, and now we got Kent Bazemore for Evan Turner. And honestly, Evan Turner was the only player left on our roster that I couldn't stand, and now we got rid of him. I like every player on this roster now. I'm at a loss for words. I did not expect Evan Turner to end up being traded this offseason unless it was in a deal for a better player. Now, I did fantasize about an Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore trade once, I believe it was about a year ago, and then I quickly moved off that as I thought it was unrealistic, because why would Atlanta want to swap a better player that's on the same contract for a worse player on the same contract? And now when you hear Atlanta's reasoning, it does start to make a little bit more sense. They view Turner as more of a backup point guard, so he's going to back up Trae Young. They wanted to clear some minutes on the perimeter for guys like Herter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter. They have a lot of young talented wings, so they didn't want Bazemore to get in the way, and they traded Bazemore to a contending team. By that logic, it does make a little bit of sense because it doesn't hamper their future flexibility. They saved $900,000, which is minimal in a salary cap that's set to be at $109 million this offseason. And Portland reaps the benefits of this because Kent Bazemore is a guy that can actually play. He's a very solid to good defender. He's not great, but he's at least as good as Turner was. He can handle the ball a little bit. He can pass a little bit. He's getting about 3.5 assists per 36 minutes in his last 4 years. But this is a guy who can actually shoot the ball at a decent clip. He's shooting 35.7% from three-point land in his past 4 seasons. So this is going to be a guy that can actually coexist with Dame and CJ. And this makes me slightly less worried about the possibility of losing Rodney Hood. So this might be our plan B to Rodney Hood, having a guy like Kent Bazemore that can come in and play some backup small forward minutes, be a good defender, shoot the ball okay, and just be an all-around solid veteran that could allow Portland to maybe open up their full mid-level exception and go after a guy not named Rodney Hood, Enes Kanter, or Seth Curry. Maybe they elect to let Rodney Hood go now that they got Kent Bazemore and they use the full mid-level exception on Kanter to bring him back. I don't know. All I know is Portland has really helped its wing situation out going forward. They turned Evan Turner and a very late first-round pick into Nasir Little and Kent Bazemore. Now Portland has a lot more flexibility going into this summer in terms of where they could shed salary, in terms of what players they could give up, because they just got better and a whole lot deeper. I don't expect this to be the last move. I think this is going to be Olshey's most active summer since we had to replace almost our entire roster after losing LaMarcus Aldridge. That wasn't really him being aggressive though, that was him having to adjust on the fly to losing his entire team. I think this offseason is going to be Olshey's most aggressive. We've heard about the possibility of him lining up moves for when free agency starts on June 30th. And I'm not talking about free agent moves, I'm talking about trades. And yet here he is making a trade a week before free agency starts, and it's a good one. And these two guys that Portland has added in the past few days, they also fit the culture. Hardworking guys. Kent Bazemore was undrafted. He's a great locker room guy to have. Like, we lose a veteran presence in Evan Turner, but I don't think we needed him as a veteran presence. We have good leadership in the locker room. We have a great culture, and that's going to be that way with or without Evan Turner. But we are bringing in a guy in Bazemore who's just going to add to that locker room and that culture as well. So what this means for Portland in terms of roster construction going forward. They only added $900,000 to the salary cap, so I don't think that's going going to be the difference in using the full mid-level exception and the taxpayer mid-level exception. $900,000 is a negligible difference. Now, this does likely take Portland out of the Blake Griffin running this summer, but I think Portland probably contacted Detroit, and Detroit is holding firm on keeping Blake Griffin at least until the trade deadline next season. It looks like Detroit is going to try and make a push going into the season. They need to add more perimeter talent, but they're not going to trade Blake Griffin. Now, why this takes Portland out of the running for Blake Griffin is because Kent Bazemore can't be attached with other salaries to match salary in a trade. He can be traded by himself. If he by himself is enough to match the salary coming in, then you can attach other players on the side to him, but you can't combine his salary with other players' salary to match incoming salary in a trade. That's the rule for traded players coming in, and that won't be the case at the trade deadline. By that time, he'll be able to be attached to other salaries, so we still have a very large expiring contract that we can use to try and acquire talent. It's just an expiring contract for a player that could actually help us out. Now, Portland is still in the running for guys like Otto Porter Jr. if he's available, guys that make $28 million a year, because they can still trade Maurice Harkless and Myers Leonard and bring in over $28 million just by setting those two out. You could also attach a guy like Gary Trent and a guy like Skal Labissière and bring that up to $33 million. Blake Griffin makes a little over $34 million, which is why I say they're probably out of the running. If Blake Griffin did become available, then they could sign Nasir Little and trade him after 30 days, and his salary would be used in that computation, and that would bring the total up enough to match salary for Blake Griffin, but I don't see Portland doing that. So I'm going to officially claim now that Blake Griffin and that dream, it's dead. But even guys like Kevin Love, we can still make a push for if we wanted to. I'm not saying we should, but for pretty much every target this summer, it doesn't exclude Portland from making a trade for him. I've seen misinformation out there on Twitter saying that this took away our biggest trade chip and now we wouldn't be able to pursue guys like Andrew Wiggins and Otto Porter Jr. That is 100% false, because Myers Leonard and Maurice Harkless can still bring in a ton of money by themselves, and they're still expiring contracts that teams would likely value. And now, to wrap this video up, I honestly don't have any nice things to say about Evan Turner. Some of the things I've seen him post on social media that some other people haven't seen have led me to not be a fan of the guy. Just rude, disrespectful stuff, and I've seen it. He's blocked me on Twitter even though I've never tweeted anything at him. And yes, I know he's good for the culture or whatever, good locker room leader, funny guy, but some of the things I've seen him post on social media made me not a fan of him as a person. And honestly, he was the only guy on the roster that I would say that about. And that's not even getting into his game, which I couldn't stand. This dude was a failed experiment from the beginning. I could have told you from the time that Evan Turner signed that this was going to be a failed experiment. It was a big mistake, and this mistake isn't fixed simply by trading for Kent Bazemore, but at least for the final season of that contract, it's made better. But yeah, I'm not going to miss 10-foot jumpers where the ball never goes above 10 feet. The rim is 10 feet. I was so tired of seeing those jumpers clink off the bottom of the rim. He'd have a good game here or there, once in a blue moon. He had that game 7 against Denver where he was very solid in the fourth quarter. His only solid playoff game because he was awful for the rest of the postseason. Yeah, he had a couple triple doubles against very bad teams, but this dude did not help the team. Portland got outscored by 6 points per 100 possessions with Evan Turner on the court, and that was by far the worst mark of any Blazer. Now the dude's gone, and honestly, I'm kind of happy that he's just simply not on the roster anymore. And some of you won't agree with that. Some of you are bigger fans of him than I obviously am, but I have very solid reasoning for not being an Evan Turner fan. I won't applaud him when he returns. I know a lot of other fans will, and you can do that. You can hate to see the guy go, but I'm not a fan. Wasn't a fan of his game, but I was supportive at first, but some of the things I've seen him post on social media just threw that all out the window. So anyway, let me know what you think about this Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore swap. I might not reply to all your comments below, but I read them all and I love reading them. A lot of times I'll leave you that heart on that message just to let you know that I read it. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And with that, we look ahead to hopefully future moves by Mr. Neil Olshey. Until then, peace out. Go Blazers.